Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of Ambient Talkie, a show where we dive into some weird and wacky equipment and wonderful, call it whatever you want, music. I'm Andy from Two Round Robins, and I hope you're ready for a bit of magic of Crow. So before I was deep into the eurorack world and I was browsing monome's site, I was a bit confused as to what Crow actually is and what it does. I remember reading somewhere that Crow speaks and listens and remembers bits of text, and thinking, well, I have no idea what that means. In hindsight, I should have read on the subject a bit more and get myself properly informed. However, I think that now, owning a bit of modules and getting to know the world of CVs, clocks, oscillators and the like, I am finally comprehending what this seemingly small module can do. So looking at it, we can see that it's just 2 HP. So this won't take valuable real estate in your eurorack case, but the potential use case is far, far bigger than its small size would make you believe. So let's take a bit of a look-see what you can do with this thing. But before that, since I'm quite a noob when it comes to both the eurorack modular world and monome's Crow, this little overview might be a bit too basic for some, but I figured out that it can be beneficial to check the surface level of this thing, and then in the future maybe make an episode or two more where I would be going deeper with the use cases for Crow and the scripting capabilities. So Crow is a USB to CV machine. Simply said, Crow is a module that can be used in various ways within your eurorack world. May this be by programming it, or by loading scripts, or by live coding, all to do by connecting it to your computer or norns. So some of you might already know this, but for those that don't, this is a module that was made in collaboration with Monome, so the people that are responsible for your norns, grids and all that, and Whimsical Wraps. So these are people that are responsible for the Mannequins modular line. Now let's just give it a bit of a spin when it comes to connectivity. Here I'll first mention that there's a I2C connection available, which is below the module. However, nothing here is that I basically use any I2C protocol. So with this, I'm not gonna talk about it. But let's just talk about the front panel. So in 2 HP, you basically get 2 input points, and you have 2 or 4 output points here. And what these input points are and what these output points are is basically dependent on what you're programming, what script you're running, and how you program it. And with this, I think it's best time to basically just jump into DRUID. So, welcome, and let's just talk a bit about Crow and doing stuff for DRUID. Now, for those that don't know, DRUID is like a little scripting environment, or a bit of a communication hub that basically where you communicate via computer with your Crow. And what you do there is basically just load up different scripts. You can live code, you can manipulate stuff, but it's a fairly easy to use environment that basically lets you either load, save, run, or even manipulate a bit of what's happening via Crow. Now, to get DRUID, it's pretty straightforward. What we're gonna use more or less for this is just a terminal. And the terminal, I don't know how it is on Windows, but like on Mac OS, which I use, we have the terminal, and it's, you just put in basic commands and it does stuff, simply said. So the first thing that you'll have to do is basically download Python. Now, Python is a programming language, and you don't need to learn Python. You don't need to know Python. It is suggestible, or I do suggest that you read on a bit about Lua and how that programming language works, but it's basically pretty easy. But you need to get Python in order for it to run normally in terminal. So it's pretty easy. You just download it from the Python website, and then you basically check it in terminal if it's all hooked up, and it should be good. And then after that, you install DRUID, which is, again, you just execute a few lines of code in terminal, and you should have it installed. And then you can do the update and all that, blah, 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 blah. Basically, this is from monome.org docs. It's a great repository for all stuff that's related to norns, so norn shield, norn standard, to Crow, to legacy stuff that Monome did, and all that lovely stuff. So if you have any questions, you can quite easily, more or less at least 90%, find them here. So read through, get to know, what you're dealing with, and that's like the best thing that you can do. So once we have that, once we have DRUID, we can basically go to the scripting. Now, we're not gonna do any scripting here, but we are gonna do the easier stuff, and that is basically we're gonna load a script, we're gonna, take a look what it does, and then we can maybe just do some mumbo jumbo in the code to so you can see how easily it is to change things up once you get it. Now, a question here that might arise for you is basically, so where do I get the scripts? Well, one thing is you can get the scripts through Lines. Lines has loads of scripts for norns, as well as Crow stuff, or in combination. However, there is Bowery. Now, Bowery is basically a little repository from GitHub that basically it's a little collection of scripts that are already made and that you can download. So you have, let's say, Boids, which is basically for simulated birds that fly around your input. Then you have like CV delay, which basically a control voltage delay with 4 taps and a looping option, and yada, yada, yada. You get the gist. It's basically just different utilities that are already pre-programmed that you can load on onto Crow. So how to do that is basically you just download it as a zip file, and then once you get it downloaded, it should, you should put it somewhere. I just put it somewhere like in the DRUID folder. I have your Bowery main, and now I need to basically I need to do this little command. So cd, so this is basically me moving into a directory in the file, and I'm just gonna move the file, the whole folder here, which is just gonna translate to a little pathway where it needs to go. And once I'm in there, so I'm just entered this file, I'll run DRUID. And how to run DRUID is you just type DRUID and it should work. And now we can see here quite easily, okay, so you have your DRUID, your Crow is connected, and it's listening at the local host at 666 and 6, which is just a lovely number right here. So what we need to do is you can always type H here down at the, so I'm just going to move this a bit here so you can see. So this is the H line here, and then this is going to tell you what basically you can do with different commands. So you have your R command with a file name, which is basically just going to run. You have your upload, which will save the current script into Crow, so you can use it without having a computer hooked up, and you can do like prints and quits and all that. So Now that we're in here, one thing that we can do is we can run a script. So if I press R and then space, we can see here a couple of scripts. So let's say, for example, if we want to see what boids does, you can basically type boids and it will start doing some mumbo jumbo in text here as well as on monome. But for you to basically understand what we need, I'm just gonna quit and I'm gonna start DRUID again. Oh yeah, well we already went here, so I'm just gonna basically run clock div. So we're gonna run a clock divider. Now, why do we do that? It's basically because it's fairly simple for you to understand what Crow actually does. So all in all, what we did here is basically pretty simple. We ran a clock divider that's now in the Crow. And just for you to understand, if we go here and just open up the Lua file, so clock div Lua, and this is this thing. So I have it opened up in a text editor like VS Studio. Basically, you can see here that in the comment section here, it basically tells you what it is. So you have, like we stated before, we have an input 1 and input 2, and then we have 4 outputs. Input 1, it basically takes the clock input. So you need to feed it a clock, and then it will divide that clock by within the outputs. You can also put something into input 2, which is basically a division selector, and these are basically just these windows that basically gives you how it selects the divisions. But we're not going to use this. We're just going to go bare bones minimum here, and we're just going to put a little input here. All right, so if we take a look at the Crow here, I'm just gonna use the outputs. I have maths in cycle mode, and I'm gonna feed it the clock here. And now what I'm gonna do is, so I have a tone going into Mojave. I'm just gonna use Mojave to demonstrate what clock divisions do. So I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna put it into the clock mode here. And then if we open up, so this is the division basically doing. And if we move this to another output, it's gonna change. Now it's changed and it's a longer division. There you go. This is gonna be a longer division right here. So it takes a bit of time for it to basically change, but this is because of the Mojave and how it basically functions as a clock, not a thing regarding the monome Crow itself. Now, you might be asking yourselves, okay, so how do I know what the divisions are? How do I know each of that? Well, if we take a look into the Lua file here, and then you have this windows, and as you can see here, so what it does, it's basically taking a clock, it's dividing it by 4, and then it's making additional divisions here. And if we take a look here, now it's looking at window number 3, and this is the window number 3. And as you can see here, we're in output 3. So if I was to change this to number 1, and in order for you to do this, you just need to save it. So I saved it with Command S, and I need to rerun it. So if I rerun clock division, it's gonna be quicker now because we only have it division of 1. If I move it to 10, again save it, you need to rerun it. And now it's gonna take quite a bit. There we go. Okay. So basically, and let's say that you want something like this, right? So I'm just gonna do like, okay, it's gonna start on a division by 2 and then division by 3, 6, and 1. And I want it like this. What you can do is you can upload this onto Crow. So by basically typing in u and then clock div, so the name of the script. Oops, I fucked it up there because I always need to basically select it. And now we have 2, 3, 6, 1. So if I move it here to the last one, it's on 1. If I move it to the second one, it's going to be on 3. There we go. It's on 3 now. So as you can see, this you can quite easily manipulate the Lua file, and it's pretty easy. You just need to save it. So it saves in the same directory, and then you rerun the script. So it's basically just moving a bit up and down for what it is. But this is just a little simple clock divider. And as you can see here, there's loads of different scripts that you can use as a utility for different ways of, you know, manipulating your eurorack. And you can change these, you can do whatever, because like most monome things, it's open source, obviously. So we're gonna touch upon scripting a bit in the future, since it's pretty easy. Well, I wouldn't say it's pretty easy. If you dip your toes into Lua a bit, it's pretty straightforward. The syntax is pretty simple. You just do a bit of, you know, mathy mumbo jumbo, and you can have quite easily a workable utility or whatever you want it to be, and you can basically do that. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention, and this is when we did the whole U thing here, if I disconnect crow as it is disconnected, basically crow is going to remember the script that I have uploaded into its internal memory. So that's a pretty cool thing. So if you make a script from zero, so from scratch, which you can do by just following this little documentation here, and, you know, wrap your head around what you want to do and how to proclaim that, you can just upload it here onto crow and then use that and have that thing there. So in a way, it's in 2HP you get a multi-tool quite easily that's reprogrammable. So that's quite cool. Now, the biggest reason why I got myself a crow is that I wanted to connect norns here to my eurorack system. And this thing is a great pair just to do that. There's quite a few scripts that are supporting crow connectivity, meaning that you can, if you go online, you can find tons of them there. Also norns community and all that. Now, thing is, I haven't really gotten the time yet to fully grasp each and every script, but in order for you just to see what this thing does, we can do a fairly simple patch here using basically norns. So what you need to do is, for example, if we go to a script like constellations here. So this is a basic script that you can use, and it creates lovely kind of generative ways of sequencing stuff. Now, this thing also has an option to use crow, or to connect crow to your eurorack system using whatever there is here. So how to do that is, first, always go to your parameter menus, and I'm gonna go here and just basically go to input output, which tells me that now it's giving out audio, which I also want, but I also want crow. So I'm gonna go crow output. And now by looking at the Lua file, you can quite easily see what each of these outputs are. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna, for example, let's just latch this thing a bit. So this is just a normal latchy sound from Plinky's internal engine, and I'm gonna use pitch, which is output number 1 for constellations, and I'm gonna put it into the pitch. Which is quite fine. And then you can use, since 2 is clock, I can go to gate and it's gonna use this internal synth. I'm just gonna move this a bit more. Maybe use this. And of course, let's just for the sake of it just use the input. So that's input level. I'm just gonna use the synth level. I'm gonna move the synth more. So now it's using this as well. However, we can try to play with this a bit. I'm gonna use a splitter, so a clock splitter, and I'm gonna clock, well, not a clock splitter, but a whatever splitter, and I'm gonna use Mojave as well. And that's quite nice. And we have like this little bouncy waves. And just like this, so this is a very, very simple patch or a very, very simple demonstration. So I'm using constellation as, you know, giving me a sequence here from norns. However, I'm creating this thing here. For example, let me just try to maybe reshape this a bit more. So I'm just gonna go to release, maybe put a bit more release. That's rather nice. Maybe reverse the grains. Maybe just take a bit more sustain. Sustain is probably on 100, maybe a bit less decay. And that's quite nice. So just like that, we've created a little thing. So from norns into eurorack. And there's loads of scripts that can be used within your eurorack by using norns. And this is all with a very, very small real estate size of 2 HP here. So yeah, I'll definitely give Crow a deeper dive in the future as I get accustomed to scripting and finding the right use cases when connecting this thing to either a computer or norns. But all in all, I just wanted to showcase a bit what Crow actually does, and in the process, hopefully I demystified it a bit for you guys. I'm going to finish this video with a bit more fun with this module and enjoy my evening, as should you. So if you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe, do the like thing and comment. And if you want to go the extra mile, I won't mind. You can become my Patreon and get little monthly sample libraries and videos before they officially release here on YouTube. But most importantly, have a lovely rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you might be watching this, and take care. Ciao.